Welcome to Mrbeefys Can of Pop News, or Beefy's Pop, whatever you want to call it. Either way, we're here to cover all kinds of pop culture news, whether it's comic book news, horror, video games, movies, who knows. Some good, some bad, some happy, some sad. Anyways, let's get on to the video. The PlayStation 2 isn't just the best-selling console of all time, it gave us some of the greatest games ever. While plenty of classic franchises have returned with remakes, sequels, and requels, there are still some incredible PS2 titles that have been completely forgotten. Today we're counting down 5 PlayStation 2 games that deserve to make a comeback. Whether it's a full remake, remaster, or a brand new sequel, these games still have what it takes to shine on modern consoles and on potentially future consoles. Some of these picks were fan favorites, others became cult classics, but every single one left players wanting more. So, if you're up for a trip down memory lane, and maybe a little wishful thinking, hit that like button, subscribe for more gaming content, and let's jump into 5 PlayStation 2 games that need to come back. If you grew up during the PS2 era, there's a good chance the Simpsons Hit Run was one of those games you couldn't put down. Released in 2003, it mixed the humor of The Simpsons with open-world driving and missions that felt like a family-friendly version of GTA. More than 20 years later, wow, it's crazy to think that it's been over 20 years, fans are still asking for a remake or a sequel, and honestly, they're right. I mean, to this day, every other convention, when a remake gets announced, it gets mentioned. So why would The Simpsons Hit and Run be the perfect PS2 game to bring back? First, the nostalgia. It's already there. The PS2 generation has grown up, and many of those players are now adults with money to spend on games that remind them of their childhood. And we've already seen the classics of like Crash, Spyro, Resident Evil 4, all of them have came back successfully. So Hit and Run has the same kind of passionate fan base just waiting for its moment to return. Nostalgia alone, though, isn't enough. The gameplay still has potential today. Imagine exploring a fully modern Springfield with the current modern gen system. Every neighborhood could be larger, more detailed, and packed with references from decades of The Simpsons. Instead of just a few drivable areas, players could roam the entire town without loading screens, discovering new hidden secrets, new Easter eggs, and side missions around every corner. The driving could also be completely revamped. Better physics, car customization, online leaderboards, and new unlockable cars would simply make cruising through Springfield fun all over again. The missions themselves could be expanded as well. While the original followed a single story, a remake or sequel could include dozens of optional activities. You could deliver Krusty Burgers with Homer, investigate mysteries with Lisa, skateboard as Bart, complete police chases as Chief Wiggum, or even run Apu's Quickie Mart for extra cash. One of the biggest strengths of the original game was its humor, and that's something that has never gone out of style. The Simpsons has over 35 seasons of material now. A new game could include references to classic episodes, newer characters, and fan favorite moments, while still keeping the same witty writing that made the original so memorable. Another reason a comeback makes sense is that there really aren't many games like it anymore. Most open world games aim for realism and a more mature audience. Hit and Run offered something different. It was colorful, funny, easy to pick up, and enjoyable for players of almost any age. Modern technology could also introduce features that weren't possible in 2003, dynamic weather, day and night cycles, more interactive NPCs, improved AI traffic, and even optional online modes could make Springfield feel more alive than ever before. Imagine hearing remastered versions of the original music while exploring the new Springfield, mixed with new tracks inspired by the show's iconic style. That alone would bring back memories for longtime fans. Perhaps the biggest reason, though, to revive The Simpsons is simple. People still care. Every year, fan-made remake videos rack up millions of views. Modders continue improving the original game, and social media constantly fills with requests for an official remake. Very few licensed games maintain that level of excitement after 20 years. A modern Simpsons Hit and Run wouldn't just be another remake, it could introduce a whole new generation of players to one of the greatest licensed game ever made, while giving longtime fans the Springfield adventure they've always wanted for years to return. Some games deserve to stay in the past, others deserve a second chance. Simpsons Hit and Run has all the ingredients for an incredible comeback: nostalgia, timeless humor, fun gameplay, and a fan base that never stopped asking for it.
Let's roll!
Man, this sucks. That's gonna cost me.
Oh, out of control! Oh, come on! Oh, now I have a wedgie!
If I didn't play so many video games, I'd be in better shape.
You're so smart, how come I broke you? Eat my dust! That hurt.
Psi-Ops, the Mindgate conspiracy. Released in 2004, it wasn't a huge commercial success, but the players who experienced it still remember it as one of the most unique action games ever made. So why is Psi-Ops the perfect PS2 game to bring back? The biggest reason is simple: its gameplay. It was way ahead of its time. Instead of relying on guns alone, Psi-Ops gave players incredible psychic abilities. You could throw enemies across the room with telekinesis, set them on fire with pyrokinesis, shock them with electricity, mind control them into fighting their own teammates, or even see through walls using remote viewing. Even today, very few games let players combine powers the way Psi-Ops did. Imagine what those abilities could look like on modern hardware. Picture lifting an entire car with telekinesis and launching it into a group of enemies. Rip concrete out of the ground to create cover, or use physics to pull weapons out of enemies' hands, slam opponents into walls, or send explosive barrels flying across the battlefield. Modern graphics and physics engines could finally let the game's psychic powers reach their full potential. The combat would also feel more dynamic than ever. Instead of following one strategy, every encounter could be approached differently. You could sneak through a facility using mind control, unleash chaos by throwing objects everywhere, or combine psychic powers with traditional weapons for fast-paced action. That kind of player freedom is something gamers love today. Another reason Psi-Ops deserves a revival is its story. You play as Nick Scryer, a government operative who wakes up with no memory and slowly discovers that he possesses incredible psychic abilities. As his memories return, so does the mystery surrounding the Mindgate organization and the dangerous people trying to control psychic power. The original game ended on a major cliffhanger, and fans have been waiting more than 20 years to find out what happens next. A remake could retell the original story while expanding the characters, adding new missions, and finally delivering the ending players never got. The boss fights could also become far more spectacular. Imagine battling enemies with psychic abilities equal to your own. destroying entire environments. As cars, debris, and buildings become weapons during the fight, every battle could feel like a scene from a blockbuster superhero movie, or you could say an average Michael Bay movie. The game could even include skill trees, customizable psychic abilities, challenge arenas, and a new game plus mode that lets players become even more powerful after finishing the campaign. Most importantly, Psi-Ops would stand out in today's gaming landscape. While many modern shooters feel similar, very few focus on creative psychic-based combat, where your powers are just as important as your weapons. That uniqueness is exactly what made the original so memorable. The demand is already there. Fans still discuss Psi-Ops online, revisit gameplay videos, and wonder what could have been after its unforgettable ending. It may not have sold millions of copies back then, but it earned something just as valuable, a loyal fan base that has never forgotten it. With today's graphics, physics, and technology, it could finally become the psychic action masterpiece it was always meant to be. The only question is, who's ready to unlock their powers one more time?
Here's your man, Nick Scryer. Facial reconstruction and an underline.
Intelligence has the movement attacking the refinery in about 90 hours.
This memory wipe will give us plenty of time to drop him in and get him past the movement psi probes. Mindgate's specialty is Psi-Ops. They dismissed General Krieger, but Scryer stayed with Mindgate and took his psychic powers to a new level.
Memory wipe initiating.
Def Jam and Def Jam Fight for New York. When people talk about the greatest fighting games on PS2, names like Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter usually come up, but there's one game that blended brutal street fighting with hip-hop culture like nothing else before or since, and that is the Def Jam series. More than 20 years after its release, fans are still calling it one of the best wrestling and fighting games ever made. So why does it deserve a modern comeback? For starters, no other game has truly filled its shoes. Fight for New York wasn't just about throwing punches. Every fight felt personal. You battled through underground clubs, subway stations, rooftops, and construction sites, using the environment as a weapon. You could slam opponents into walls, smash them through tables, or send them crashing into crowds. The combat was so incredibly deep, players could master 5 different fighting styles: street fighting, wrestling, martial arts, kickboxing, and submissions, or mix them together to create your own unique fighter. Every match felt different depending on your style, and mastering combinations took real skill. Imagine what the system could become with today's technology. Picture realistic physics, destructible arenas, smoother animations, and even more environmental interactions. Instead of just breaking tables, you could destroy sections of a venue, turning every fight into a cinematic brawl. Then there's the roster. One of the biggest reasons people still love Fight for New York is the unforgettable lineup of hip-hop artists. Legends like Snoop Dogg, Busta Rhymes, Method Man, Redman, Ludacris, Ice-T, Fat Joe, Slick Rick, and many others weren't just guest appearances, they were fully realized fighters with their own personalities and fighting styles. A modern sequel could combine those legends with today's biggest rap stars, creating a dream roster that bridges generations of hip-hop fans. The Creative Fighter mode could also be expanded dramatically. Players could customize everything from fighting styles and entrances to clothing, tattoos, finishing moves, even signature taunts. Online sharing would let players show off their creations and challenge others around the world. Speaking of online, the original game launched before online multiplayer became standard on consoles. A new Def Jam could feature ranked matches, tournaments, co-op modes, and seasonal events that keep players coming back long after launch. The soundtrack would be another huge selling point. The original featured an incredible mix of hip-hop tracks that perfectly matched the game's energy. A modern version could combine classic songs with new music from today's artists, making every fight feel like a live concert. Most importantly, Fight for New York had personality. It wasn't trying to be a realistic MMA simulator or a traditional wrestling game. It had style, swagger, and attitude. Every venue, every fighter, and every soundtrack choice made the game feel unique. That's something many modern fighting games struggle to capture. Fans have spent years asking for a remake or a true sequel because nothing else delivers the same mix of arcade combat, customization, and hip-hop culture. Some games become classics because they sold millions of copies. Others become classics because players never stop talking about them. And Fight for New York, the Def Jam series, they're one of those games. With modern graphics, online multiplayer, expanded customization, and new generations of artists, it could once again become one of the most exciting fighting games on the market. When it comes to old fighting games that need to come back, Def Jam definitely deserves another shot in the ring. When people talk about the greatest first-person shooters on the PS2, games like Call of Duty, Medal of Honor, Time Splitters, and Killzone are usually among the first to be mentioned, but there's one shooter that often gets overlooked, despite being one of the most technically impressive games ever released on the system: Black. Released in 2006 by Criterion Games, the studio best known for the Burnout series, Black wasn't trying to tell a deep, emotional story or revolutionize multiplayer gaming. Instead, it focused on one thing above everything else: making players feel like they were starring in the biggest, loudest, and most explosive action movie imaginable. Even after nearly 20 years, Black remains one of the most satisfying shooters ever made. So today we're going to talk about why this PS2 classic deserves another chance. The biggest reason Black deserves to return is its incredible gunplay. Every weapon in the game had its own personality. Assault rifles felt powerful, Shotguns could clear an entire room in seconds, machine guns fired with overwhelming force, and sniper rifles, a personal favorite, delivered incredibly satisfying long-range kills. What made Black special wasn't just a variety of weapons, it was how they felt. Every trigger pull came with booming sound effects, realistic recoil, bright muzzle flashes, and enemies reacting to every hit. Even today, many modern shooters still struggle to make their weapons feel this satisfying. Criterion understood something many developers forget. If shooting is the main thing players are doing for hours, then every shot needs to feel rewarding. Another reason Black stood out was its incredible destruction. This game made environments feel alive. Windows shattered into hundreds of pieces, concrete chipped away under heavy gunfire, wooden crates exploded into splinters, cars erupted into massive fireballs. Gas tanks, explosive barrels, and walls all reacted differently depending on what happened during each firefight. It wasn't complete environmental destruction like we see in modern games, but for a PS2 title, it was absolutely mind-blowing. Instead of fighting in static environments, players felt like they were leaving a trail of destruction behind them. Every battle looked different by the time it ended, and that helped make firefights feel cinematic rather than repetitive. Another area where Black truly excelled was its presentation. It's almost unbelievable that this game ran on PS2 hardware. The lighting effects, smoke, sparks, explosions, and particle effects were years ahead of many console shooters. Every explosion filled the screen with debris, dust, and fire. Bullets kicked up pieces of walls and floors, creating the feeling that every battle was pure chaos. Then there's the sound design. Many players still consider Black to have some of the best weapon sounds ever created in gaming. Every gun sounded powerful enough to shake your television speakers. Instead of feeling like toys, the weapons sounded dangerous and intimidating, making every firefight even more exciting. The game also did an excellent job of maintaining a fast pace. Black didn't waste time with complicated mechanics or unnecessary distractions. You moved forward, you found enemies, you picked the right weapon, and then you unleashed absolute chaos. That simple gameplay loop kept players engaged from the beginning to end. Of course, Black wasn't perfect. The biggest criticism was its story. While the action wasn't fantastic, the plot mostly served as a reason to move from one mission to the next. There weren't many memorable characters, and the campaign was relatively short compared to some other shooters of the time. There also wasn't any multiplayer mode. Considering how popular online gaming has become, this feels like the biggest opportunity for a modern sequel. Imagine Black returning today with a full cinematic campaign, online multiplayer, co-op missions, survival mode, customizable weapons, and even larger destructible environments powered by today's hardware. The core gameplay wouldn't need to change very much. It simply needs to build upon what made the original so special. Modern technology could take everything Black introduced and push it even further. Ray traced lighting could make explosions even more spectacular. Powerful CPUs could support larger battlefields filled with destructible buildings and vehicles. Advanced physics could make every firefight unique. Imagine entire walls collapsing after sustaining gunfire, bridges falling apart during battles, or buildings being destroyed piece by piece as explosions tear through them. Those ideas perfectly match the identity Black established way back in 2006. Another reason Black deserves another chance is because there simply aren't many shooters like it anymore. Many modern first-person shooters focus heavily on live service features, battle passes, seasonal content, or competitive multiplayer. Black focused on delivering a straightforward, action-packed single-player experience. Sometimes players just want to jump into an explosive campaign without worrying about progression systems or microtransactions. There's still a huge audience for that kind of experience today. We've already seen classic gaming franchises make successful returns. Games once thought forgotten have received remakes, remasters, and brand new sequels, proving that there's still a demand for beloved franchises from the PS2 era, and Black absolutely belongs in that conversation. Whether it comes back as a faithful remake, a complete reboot, or a long-awaited sequel, there's plenty of potential waiting to be explored. The foundation already exists, the gameplay still holds up, the gunplay remains satisfying, the destruction is still impressive, and the presentation continues to amaze people who revisit the game today. Sometimes a great game doesn't need to be completely reinvented. It just needs modern technology to help it reach its full potential. Black was one of PS2's greatest technical achievements, and after almost 20 years, it's finally time for this explosive shooter to make its return. When people think about the best action games on PS2, titles like Devil May Cry and God of War usually dominate the conversation, but there's one stylish action game that often gets overlooked despite offering one of the fastest, most challenging combat systems of its generation: Shinobi. Released in 2002 by Sega, Shinobi marked the return of one of gaming's oldest ninja franchises. Rather than simply copying other action games of the time, it introduced its own unique blend of speed, precision, and stylish swordplay that rewarded skill above everything else. Although it developed a reputation for being extremely difficult, Shinobi remains one of the most memorable action games on the PS2. So today, let's talk about why this forgotten classic deserves another chance. The first reason Shinobi deserves to return is its incredible, satisfying combat. Unlike many action games where players can simply mash buttons to win, Shinobi demanded precision. Every enemy encounter felt like a test of timing, movement, and decision making. Joe Musashi wasn't a heavily armored warrior. He was a lightning-fast ninja capable of sprinting across walls, double jumping through danger, and cutting down enemies with incredible speed. The game's signature mechanic, known as the Tate system, made combat unlike anything else. Players could slash multiple enemies without immediately defeating them. Instead, once the final strike was delivered, every marked enemy would fall at the same time. Successfully pulling off a long chain of perfectly timed attacks never got old. It wasn't just satisfying, it made the players feel like true ninja masters. Another reason Shinobi stood out was its incredible speed. Everything about the game encouraged constant movement. You weren't supposed to stand still trading blows with enemies. Instead, you were expected to dodge attacks, leap across platforms, run along walls, and strike before your opponents even had time to react. That fast-paced gameplay gave Shinobi its own identity and made every level feel exciting from the beginning to the end. The game's visual styles also deserve a lot of credit. Instead of chasing realism, Shinobi embraced a bold, stylized look inspired by Japanese art and anime. Bright colors, dramatic lighting, and unique environments helped every stage stand out. From futuristic cities and ancient temples to military bases and supernatural landscapes, every level felt distinct. Even today, its artistic style has aged surprisingly well because it wasn't trying to imitate reality. Then there's the soundtrack. The energetic electronic music combined with traditional Japanese influences created an atmosphere unlike any other action game of that era. Each level felt intense, and the music perfectly matched the fast-paced gameplay. Of course, no discussion about Shinobi would be complete without mentioning its difficulty. This wasn't an easy game. Enemies hit hard, bosses demanded quick reflexes, and mistakes were heavily punished. For some players, that challenge became part of the game's appeal. Every victory felt earned. However, others found the difficulty frustrating, especially because of the Akujiki sword mechanic, which constantly drained Joe's life unless players defeated enemies quickly. While it encouraged aggressive gameplay, it also made certain sections much harder than they needed to be. A modern remake could keep the intensity while making the experience more accessible through optional difficulty settings, better tutorials, and quality of life improvements. Another area that could be expanded is the story. The original featured an interesting conflict involving mystical powers, monsters, and the legendary Oboro clan, but much of the narrative stayed in the background. Today's technology could allow Sega to tell a richer story with cinematic cutscenes, stronger character development, and more memorable villains. Joe Musashi has always been one of gaming's coolest ninja characters, yet newer gamers have never had the opportunity to experience his adventures. That's something a remake could easily change. Modern hardware could also elevate Shinobi's gameplay to another level. Imagine incredibly fluid animations running at 60 or even 120 frames per second. Imagine larger environments with seamless wall running, expanded combat arenas, and dynamic boss battles filled with destructible environments. The Tate system could become even more spectacular, allowing players to chain together massive combinations against dozens of enemies before eliminating them all with one perfectly timed finishing strike. New abilities, additional weapons, and expanded stealth mechanics could deepen the gameplay without sacrificing what made the original special. Most importantly, Shinobi wouldn't need to copy other action franchises. It already has its own identity. Its focus on speed, precision, stylish combat, and rewarding mastery makes it stand out even today. Players continue to enjoy challenging action games, as we've seen with many successful modern releases. That proves that there's still a place for games that reward practice and skill instead of simply handing players victory. Shinobi could easily find a new audience while giving longtime fans the return they've wanted for years. Sega has already shown a willingness to revive classic franchises, making now the perfect time to bring back Joe Musashi. Whether it's a faithful remake of the PS2 classic, a remastered collection of the older games, or a completely new sequel built for modern consoles, Shinobi deserves another chance. Its stylish presentation, satisfying combat, memorable soundtrack, and unique gameplay mechanics make it one of the most underrated action games of the PS2 generation. Some classics deserve to stay in the past. Shinobi isn't one of them. This legendary ninja has waited long enough, and it's time that he gets the respect he deserves. And those are my picks for 5 PS2 games that deserve to make a comeback, whether it's a full remake, remaster, or all new sequel. Each of these games proved just how creative and exciting the PS2 era really was. And the great news is, we're living in an era where classic games are returning more often than ever. Developers are bringing back beloved franchises that many people thought were gone forever. That means there's still hope that one day we'll see these forgotten PS2 classics return for a whole new generation of players. Let me know below, what did you think? Did any of these games ever catch your eye as a kid? The video's coming to an end. Thank you once again for giving me your time, and thank you for the comments and everything else. As usual, have a great day. It's all about attitude. There is no progress without struggle, so stay in there. I've been your host, Mr. Beefy, and you've all been fantastic.
Sit back and listen to the beef. Sit back and listen to the beef now. Sit back and listen to the beef.